Hello, welcome to Move Younger. I'm Kathy Hill. Move Younger is about the three elements of aging well: how we move, what we eat, and how we deal with stress. Today, I am also mother in law,
Mhm.
and GK to my grandkids, as my guests are my three daughters and my daughter in law. Um, okay, so this next section, I'm calling it It's a Barbie World. I haven't been reading these titles, but I might add them to the podcast. For much of recorded history, women could not own property and were reliant on husbands. Beauty was a path to attaining security, especially in a world where appearance could be conflated with worth. This is from How to Be a Renaissance Woman, The Untold History of Beauty and Female Creativity by Jill Burke. So, with that in mind, that we're constantly inching our way forward and we're also losing rights as we do so. What standard of beauty may mess with your mind when you were a teen or young adult? Because that starts influencing how much we want to buy into having a certain look or a certain standard of beauty, which in the past was your way to having success, and it doesn't now, but it was the way you had a good marriage because you couldn't own your own property or anything. I'll just start with mine again. So when I was in grade school, it started, in fact, affecting me in high school too. But having a dark tan, which seems so weird now, was everything. I mean, everybody would want to come back to school with a really good tan. So I'm going to say like middle school age. Since I went to Catholic school, I always think of grade school, high school. Um, and I could not do that, but I tried and I just destroyed a lot of skin in the process. And then the other thing was I was very flat chested. And this was also the time of not artificial, but of this silhouette of tiny waist and boobs. You can kind of look at the 70s silhouette and see it. But so I felt like it kind of messed with me because physically I could not attain these things. And so I had to start being okay with everything about myself. And that did end up influencing me in a way which I'm grateful for because I've never wanted to alter my looks, even though it was really hard when I'm staring in a mirror most of the time teaching. And I was starting to notice aging in my 40s, which is when it starts showing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I just avoided it because I didn't want to be, I don't know, I didn't want to buy into it. So that's mine.
Mm.
Anyone want to jump in on that?
I
Well, I feel like mine are the exact same things as yours. Like those are the two exact things that I was going to say. So it's interesting that you felt that way when you were younger and I felt that way when I was younger and, different
Uh-huh. Very
generations.
different times. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt
Mhm.
like the it girl thing was you really needed to be tan, and that's when tanning beds were really big, so everyone was going to the tanning bed, and I did try it a couple times, and I'm so fair skinned that I got a reaction from it. We call it the hell itch because it is like almost a layer of your skin kind of down to your nerves, and so it makes your skin so if you get like kind of a really bad sunburn, you can get this really painful itch. And so that happened to me, and I thought maybe it must be like the cleaner that they were using, but so my skin just kind of rejected the whole
Yeah.
tanning bed thing, which I think now I'm realizing was really good, so that I didn't destroy my skin in tanning beds. But yeah, I've always been very fair skinned, and it seemed like the it thing was to be really tan. And then also, I always wanted bigger breasts
Your
when I
boobs.
was, yeah, I was always waiting for them to come in, and they never arrived. But now it's like something I don't even think about. And that's when I was younger, girls were in high school were talking about like, oh, breast implants. It seemed like, oh, if you didn't have boobs that like you needed breast implants. And so I remember even being like preteen teenager thinking about like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm going to have to get breast implants. And I did not do that, but I still would love to be a little tanner. It's not going to happen, but I think I'm way more confident body wise and yet totally comfortable with not having the voluptuous body that I thought I needed in high school.
I definitely came to terms with it and became fine with it. But when I was in high school, it was common to be commented on by boys
Yeah,
about your,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that changed as time went on, but it was just like, yeah, do I have to hear about it all the time? Really? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I kind of miss a lot happened in the past few minutes. I'm sure you guys saw a little bit of it,
Yeah.
but Diane fell down. So I had to go console him because he had a big spill onto some tile. He's fine now. But I think I understand the conversation to an extent. So something I've never really, I just kind of like, I don't know. I've never really been too hung up on things. I think I'm just kind of like go through the motions of life and whatnot. But one of the things that used to bother me is how people would always tell me how young I look. And when that stops happening, it really hurts. And
You look so young, Casey.
I so remember that too because I heard it my whole life, and then all of a
whole
sudden
life. Because
it
it's not a
stopped.
nice,
It's like,
it's
wait,
not,
what happened?
it's not a nice comment, you know, when people are like, there's so many rude ways of people saying it, like, oh, you know, I'm going to card you. And you're just like, yeah, I have my ID in my hand, you know, or just things of that nature. Or people say in a way that they are kind of implying that you are immature or like, oh, I thought you were so much young. It never sounds like a compliment. It's always just like, so I hated hearing about that.
I
But
felt like that always happens to me too. Yeah.
well,
Throughout life.
one day when it stops happening, and then I got kind of like hyper focused on my neck because that's like the first part. I'm like, what changed? Like, what happened? So I don't know if it was like hitting my 40s or you know, we went through a really, really rough patch in life when we almost lost Zephyr, which is kind of a big thing to just drop in the conversation for people that obviously our family is familiar with that story. But having that hardship of having a sick son, I mean, that is some stress that is, Stephanie's familiar with stress like that, that just can pile on so much of life to you at a rapid speed. So I don't know if and then also like going through a pandemic and all the things that we were all going through during that time. But I am now really into my skincare and trying my best to wear sunscreen and just being hyper aware of that. But I don't know if I'll look back and wish that I went through an era of being like really into makeup and really into hair. And because at this point, I kind of feel like that ship has sailed. Like it's, what is that weird? I mean, like, can you imagine if I just started going out in the world all of a sudden and I'm like, I spent all the time that the girls on TikTok do on my makeup.
Oh, well, I've never,
Like, what?
I've
What
never
is
done
she
that.
doing?
I've
Or if
always
I
been
like
pretty
all of a sudden did
minimal.
my hair
Yeah,
all
I represent that group.
Huh?
I represent that group.
Like I've gone through like periods of wearing eyeliner and eyeshadow, and I know enough of how to do some makeup, but it's just I don't have the time for it. Like I
Yeah.
barely even have the time to make sure I have breakfast, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't do a lot of makeup when you guys were small. You know, I always put on mascara because I have no eyelashes without, they're blonde. And I got tired of people saying, "Are you feeling okay?" Because my eyes would look kind of just different. So,
Same.
but I definitely did not do a lot of stuff. for
That was
years.
another comment I had a lot
That's
of
why I
when
was
I was
laughing because I
younger.
was like, I think I picked it up later on more than I did when I was younger.
When I was younger, a lot of people would say I looked tired, and I have no idea why. Like, I don't know what about my
Yeah,
face
that is
was
weird.
I droopy? Did I not lift my eyes enough? But and now I have hooded eyelids, and that is something that I'm trying to figure out how to be okay with it. So I got
Yeah.
Origins coffee tincture to just try and waken up the skin above my eyes a little bit.
Oh, your
So I
eyelids are
step it
dirty.
on. Yeah, I've hooded eyelids. I got this old neck.
Everyone sees so much that nobody else sees. I will say that for sure.
I
And
think
I
I
look
always
back
ask
at
Christine about
pictures
my
of
neck.
myself at an age where I remember feeling like I looked awful, and I'm like, why was I having such a problem with this? You know, I'm always like, we're the most self-critical of ourselves, I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I realize I'm the only one not wearing glasses. I just
You
suddenly
are.
realized
Oh,
You don't feel that way. You actually are.
I was gonna make that
I
comment on
didn't
the
notice it till
clothing
just
thing, and
now.
I forgot
It's the first thing
that
that
I
I
do wear
noticed. I was like, that's
glasses.
so funny. We are all wearing here. You feel better?
Um,
I feel like Stephanie's always been fine with
I
everything, with how she feels and looks and everything.
mean,
No,
Casey and I went to tanning beds in high school. Um,
And we would get the stickers.
I never got a
Yeah.
Do you remember
sticker.
that? Okay, I did.
I didn't
What kind of stickers did you get,
like a
I
Casey?
never went to
star
a
or
tanning bed.
something.
I got the Playboy bunny. How
I
like
was
trashy
thinking
is
the
that?
same thing.
That's I
Wait,
don't
what?
remember that at all.
They gave you the Playboy bunny sticker for
Yeah, so you
tanning?
put a sticker on so that every time you tan, it's
Like
like
on your stomach.
yeah,
Oh,
Mm.
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
oh,
I mean,
yes, I remember. Yeah,
I will
Am
say,
I the only one who's ever been to a tanning bed? I guess I am.
yeah, I've never been to a tanning bed. Am I the only one that's
Oh,
ever been to a tanning bed?
well, you and
then the
you
two
and
of us.
mom
I think you
haven't.
and mom.
Oh, mom has.
Yeah.
I also,
I haven't.
so during the summertime, my friends and I would go down to the Lake of the Ozarks and I would get my initial like sunburn out of the way and then we would like slather on tanning oil, like that Tropicana, like I could smell
Yeah,
it right now.
Mhm.
And
yeah, no
I'm
sunscreen.
sure like my
Well,
skin is, I'm in so much trouble.
I will say, much to our mother's horror, I don't wear sunscreen and I never have and I never will.
But you have a different. I mean, your skin tans, and no, I don't think you've ever burned ever.
I have burned, but and I would totally burn now if I were to go out in the sun because I'm not in the sun like I used to be, but I would eventually get tan. But I like coconut oil and I've been using oils and emollient things
It's
on my
your natural
skin
sunscreen.
since high school. And in Miami, all my almost 10 years there, that is what I used when I would sit out in the sun. I would use coconut oil. And
Mhm.
it's been working for me.
It's
But
what kept coconut oil kept me from getting a really bad sunburn because I got sun poisoning when I was in the Caribbean with sunscreen, but I didn't have apparently enough sunscreen or I didn't reapply it enough. So when we went to Belize, I put coconut oil on first and then I put on bulldog or frog or whatever it is for the like SPF 5,000. I don't know what it is. And I did that every morning and I reapplied it later in the day. And it was when I looked at pictures, I realized I actually had a tan and I never burned. I actually had a tan and I thought, well, I was wearing sunscreen and I realized my sunscreen probably wore off, but the coconut oil was still in there. It was just in my skin. So
yeah.
it's good stuff.
Well, I never cared about tanning, and I think that, and I actually in middle school wanted to be as pale as possible, and I think it's because emo culture and like
Oh, she
Oh, you
goth
froze.
froze.
culture was like
You froze.
going, and then emo culture was. Oh, I froze. I'll go back.
No, it's okay. You just froze.
Oh, I just froze. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool. That's fine. Yeah, so I didn't really care about being tan because for like the emo kids, it was really about being as pale as possible. Um, and now I'm pretty active about wearing sunscreen, since I feel like that kind of came up on the rise after me. It was like wearing sunscreen, and it has like really improved my skin on my face, or like my skin has like cleared up a lot since I started wearing sunscreen. So I feel like I've pretty, oh wait, but that's not, we're not talking about skincare. We're talking about beauty standards. From a beauty
But that is a
standards
part of beauty
standpoint, though,
standards, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
true,
not just
yeah.
self-care, it is also
Mhm.
like, and that's sort of where I am right now, is realizing I wish that I would have taken better care of my skin earlier on, because I am getting to that point with my old neck. Am I the only one that like really gets?
No, I'm freaked
No, but
out. Here's the
and
thing.
then
I've been
okay,
obsessed with my neck forever, so I'm freaked out about the possibility of my neck
so
changing.
Do
I
this all the time. I pull it
Yeah,
up
oh
no,
and I
I'm
see
I got
I
constantly,
guess
the
I
I'm
thing. Laura,
constantly
do you have
putting,
that
The
thing?
gua sha.
Washa,
I
yeah.
do not gua sha. That's definitely, yeah, like a recent-ish trend. I have a gua sha. I haven't used it in a long time. I know Amelia likes to gua sha too. I do
Amelia,
have
you
the
guasha? We should share
I kind
tips.
of got out of the habit of it, but I do gua sha sometimes, and I feel like it does help. I feel like
I think it's good
consistent
for
gua
all
shaing
sorts.
helps.
Yeah, and I think
I think
like
it's
because you
good,
always
like,
like push
yeah,
towards your
circulation.
heart. Because I'm also going to
Mhm.
get back into dry brushing. All this stuff is good for you too. It's like
Oh,
good for
dry
your overall
brushing's all
health.
good for the lymphatic system. Yeah.
But I have, because I have the crow's feet, you know, I got the crow's feet. And I think if I wore more sunblock, I probably wouldn't have them as much. And I was having a picture taken for work, and the photographer's like, you know, talking to me about, I hate having my picture taken, so as grueling as it is. And then the lady that was on the PR team for the company I worked with, she was like, "Oh, I just love crow's feet." And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
that's how visible they are right now. And she meant it as a compliment. She's like, there's just
Oh,
something that's so sweet about them. And my picture, I look dead in the eyes because I'm like,
you need not to, yeah.
Let me
I
not move my
relate to
eyes.
that so much, and I think that that's like currently is probably my most self-conscious thing
crow's feet.
is I get self-conscious about the crinkles around my eyes. I think that
Yeah.
that's maybe where I show age the most. But I have noticed, and kind of looking back at pictures in periods of my life where in the last, few years when I was incredibly stressed, how I really saw it in my eyes.
Oh yeah.
And now it's because I feel like I'm in a much less stressful period of my life. I've noticed how like fresher my eyes look. So it's interesting that it's like, well, maybe it was just
Really
that I
true.
was really stressed out and my skin was showing it. So I don't
It does. It really does. I will.
I do feel like my skin has always shown all of like the issues inside of me, you know.
know. Yeah.
It's
And like, yeah, if I just like don't sleep well, then I have terrible skin, and yeah, it's
Your skin looks
a
really good right
struggle.
now. And if you have blush on, or if
Thank
that's like
you.
naturally
I
you, it
do.
looks
I do
so
have a little
good.
blush. I do
Maybe I
have a
should
little
get some
blush. Thank
blush.
you.
Your skin looks very nice.
Maybe the ship hasn't sailed for me. Maybe I can get back into makeup.
you
Yeah,
can. The ship
no, I
has not
mean,
sailed.
no,
I hardly go
I love
in
makeup.
makeup
I do have a
when
lot of
probably
thoughts and feelings on makeup.
when all four of you were at home, when Travis was at home and Amelia was a baby. I mean, I hardly did it. I did nothing. Like nothing.
Yeah, I think
Maybe kissed my face soap and washed my hair. And I put mascara on. That was it.
Well,
That's where
now
I
I
think
feel like the trend is so leaning towards the clean girl makeup. Whereas I feel like when I was in high school, and I don't know about when Stephanie and Casey were in high school, it was a lot more like heavy eyeliner,
yeah.
like kind of heavier eyeshadow,
Hmm.
kind of more opaque, cakier foundation. And now I feel like it's kind of makeup that looks like you don't have on makeup. So I think
yeah.
it's a lot more kind of trending towards much lighter, natural looking
Hmm.
makeup.
Laura, I
It's
think you're right on that. Like that's, and I think that right now it's such a thing for people. I think having skin that's dewy and polished and porcelain and glass skin, whatever, I think that is just such a look right now. And I just, Mom, I'm not Kiss My Face skincare, but I do a lot more than that. And I pay a lot of money for my skincare,
Well,
but
I'm glad you do because it wasn't a
well, and
good idea.
I love it. Like I love the brand that I'm using right now, but I just put on mascara and my BB cream because that's my sunscreen. But yeah, I think that like people that just kind of look like fresh and clean, I think that's like such with a good blush. Like Amelia, your blush right now really is like so adorable, and your highlights are really cute too.
Oh, thank you. I do feel like I
Me and Laura kind of have a similar.
relied on makeup a lot, or like I have trouble not wearing makeup at all, and the pandemic was a big reset for me in terms of the clean girl aesthetic on the rise, and then feeling less pressure to wear makeup every day. But there was definitely many years of my life where I could not leave without eyeliner. And like I felt almost trapped by having to put on eyeliner because I didn't love how I looked without it. Also, it's like having to do that every single day. And so I've kind of like gotten into little conundrums, but now I feel kind of okay with just my face being what it is. And and also as I've gotten older, I feel like how I have perceived my face has changed. Um, I was going to add for the beauty standards that I dealt with the most in high school and younger. I was definitely two things. Heroin chic, I think, is like my defining
Mm.
body image issue, was like just having to be like so crazy thin. And I really internalized a lot of the tabloids at the time talking about like how Britney Spears was fat and Jessica Simpson was
Yeah,
fat, and if you were a size 6 that you were fat.
so
And like
dangerous.
so dangerous, and I like absorbed all of that. I was peripherally aware of like eating disorder Tumblr stuff, and like learning, just learning bad techniques for, and just like anorexia was just like so of the time that I think that anybody being over, like being really like a size 4 up was like,
Felt targeted.
it felt targeted. And so it's been really nice to see those standards of like body positivity change over the past 10 years.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of skinniness as the goal is coming back. And I'm really worried about that, especially
Oh,
because
interesting.
yeah, especially for younger generations online on TikTok and stuff. Like I'm aware of like skinny talk is a thing, and a lot of the unhealthy behaviors that were unregulated on the internet, back in the day, like that, you know, telling people to swallow cotton balls and stuff to like fill your stomach, and like
Fill their
were just like
stomach. Yeah.
crazy, and just like so
When
many unhealthy things
when I was
are
in
circling
grade school,
back.
grade school or high school, probably more high school, but grade school, um, what would the girls do? They would take pills for people that are constipated, so that they would just
Oh,
like
so
Oh,
they just,
laxatives. Yeah.
laxatives. I couldn't think of the word, but and so this kind of makes me think of earlier. I called Mom on my way to work, and we were just kind of like chatting about the questions that she had, and I was saying how I remember when I was younger that I remember just thinking like, why do women have to wear makeup? Like why is this just something that's geared towards women? And why do women have, and I know that eating disorders aren't solely something that women are affected by. There are a surprising amount of men that have eating disorders as well, which kind of blew my mind, and it shouldn't when I found that out. But why do we have to be so presentable, like with our fashion and our makeup, and making sure that we look good and we feel insecure? I mean, it's a huge market.
And
But
I'd like for one of the reasons I want to have these conversations is because I feel like since we're from so many different generations, as one ages, I think they would like to believe they get wiser. But I feel like I love the idea of just being comfortable in my skin, and that's been my goal to, like it was movement, thank God, that really kept me so grounded because all I ended up caring about was that I could dance, that I could hit the things I wanted to. That became so much more important. And all I cared about were like lines. Does my leg have the right line? And by that I mean like in a position, not like is my leg the right shape? It was more about like what my body could do. But I love the idea of the shift coming, hopefully, and that women would just feel good in their own skin and just embrace their uniqueness. So that's my subtext. Under all I think I want to make this into two parts because it's almost an hour and I want to do the last question.
Okay.
So I think we'll do that.
I do have more thoughts on everything that we talked about, so I can even I can move a second round of just
I know.
rehashing everything.
It's been really interesting. And I think it's really important. It's like a family version of The View, except we're not dealing with crazy politics or something.
Oh, wait, can I add one more body image thing?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
One more body image thing that was really a big thing when I was in high school was being like completely hairless. Like girls would shave their arms a lot.
Really?
And so like you were truly just like a little naked mole rat. And it was always horrifying when people's arm hair started to grow back because it was all like spiky and stuff. And like all the girls felt really like trapped into like having to have like shaved arms
Oh my
and stuff.
goodness.
So
relate
you
to
had to
that.
be hairless everywhere.
Yeah.
I've
I
always
did
had.
shave my arms. Yeah, I
You
had
did?
I have
Oh,
very
yours are good.
light, kind of like blonde. It's very thin arm hair, but I did have a lot of it, and I was so self-conscious about it. So I did shave it, and every once in a while I'll shave a little bit of it, but it's so soft that it's not like weird and stubbly. But I remember not being able to wait until I could shave my legs and just like begging my mom to be able to have like a razor so that I could shave my legs. Like I was obsessed with it.
Yeah,
How
I
old were
feel
you?
that.
I feel like preteen and teenager. Yeah. And now I kind of hate shaving my legs.
Yeah, I used to
I
shave my
definitely
legs
don't do it
every
as
single
often.
day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, every single day, and I had like red bumps on them. It's just like, of course.
Oh my gosh. I remember my friends told me I was probably 13 and they were like, you really should start shaving your legs. And I was like, I don't think so. I was like, yeah. And they were like, Kathy. So they talked me into it. But I was saying I had really light hair, and I never would have shaved my arms. Nobody did that, thank God. We weren't aiming to be, what was it, a little hairless mole? What was it?
A naked mole rat.
A naked mole rat, that's right. I'm glad that I was a teenager when beauty standards were more leaning to natural, even though it was naturally tan. But we didn't like hair was more natural. There wasn't all the updos, and makeup was pretty minimal. So I am glad for that. That was a good thing of high school in the 70s.
Yeah.
Last question for this section, because I think we'll deal with the stress part on a part 2. What is your go-to social media and what do you like about it? And do you think it impacts your mental health for better or for worse? So I'll answer first again. I was one of the first, of my family, I was one of the first I know that was on Facebook. And what I loved about it was a chance for me to connect to all these people that I'd gone to college with, people I'd gone to school with, people I had just, you didn't have a way to get in contact with people back when your phone number changed every time you moved. And so I was in heaven. I remember talking to a friend who was in the Conservatory of Music, and he was now living in Germany. And I was just like blown away that we were having a chat without having to pay for it. And I just thought, this is like living. It was so nice because long distance calls cost money when I was young, and you wouldn't have ever called over to Europe, or out of the country. Long distance in the States was really expensive, and your phone bill could just like add up a lot just for a couple of phone calls. So that, and then Instagram is what I go to for inspiration. I love looking at all the Pilates and dancers and all that kind of movement stuff is probably my main inspiration on Instagram, but those are the two, but they're very different. Now Facebook isn't the same at all, but I still like being able to contact people without having any other means to contact them. I haven't like grabbed all their phone numbers or, you know, even emails. I
Facebook
don't.
for me when I was traveling. Well, when I was traveling, and I think I was only on Facebook, and this was over a decade ago before Instagram was what it
Mhm.
is now. But I would have not stayed in contact with I met other women traveling solo when I was backpacking around Australia and New Zealand, and I would not stay in touch with them if it weren't for Facebook. And
Right.
that is one of the best contributions I would say that Facebook has given me. And now I just basically use Facebook as like my friend family social setting. My favorite is TikTok because I
Oh yeah. I forgot I
don't
do
know
like
where
to.
I necessarily am going to end up. I think especially during like the election cycle and post election, just knowing it's just been very sort of, it's been a dizzy era, and just kind of
Mhm.
knowing the connection of where people are has been very comforting for me. It's a lot of community that I would not have necessarily found. And Instagram, I do have friends on Instagram, but I wouldn't say that, I would say I love the people that I follow on Instagram because I get so many ideas on crafts to do with my kids, and also like just things that I'm into and passionate about. I can watch people make food for like, I will fall down that rabbit hole so gladly. And I'm just like, ooh, yeah, oh my God, I'm going to let's do that. But I think that this is a very interesting conversation because there's so much discussion right now on psychology of social media. I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm driving, and I'm listening to The Good Hang by Amy Poehler. Cannot get enough of her podcast. I listen to every single episode, and also Michelle Obama's podcast with her brother. And this category is touched on a lot because there
On
is
social media platforms.
like the social media aspect, how it is in our lives, but also the psychology behind it. Because, there are, for me, having young sons, and they're clearly not on social media, but they love YouTube. And you think it's like kind of okay because they're watching like these innocent people that make content for kids like Miss Rachel or Handyman Hal or Danny Go, like all these icons that are huge in our household, but they don't really set it up. So um, it's, I feel terrible sometimes because I realize like all of a sudden they're watching something that is like, what are you watching? Like
Mhm.
cartoons that get kind of weird or take a dark turn. And did I, when I thought that they were kind of like safely having screen time, allow them to like fall towards a cartoon that is made by some weirdo that they're getting like subliminal messages. But
Yeah.
then stacked on top of that, kids and teenagers suffer such immense pressure from standards, and Amelia touched on this, but set by um, social media or media as a whole. But now there's so much more that we have to worry about, because it's like, who's DMing your kids? How are they reaching your kids through social media? And what are they getting exposed to? And bullying, all these things that, like, when we were growing up, we were like pretty isolated. So it's this big category that I don't know what it's going to be like in a few years. Right now, apparently it's Gen Z is having, some people are having flip phone summer. A lot of Gen Zers are going back to flip phones because they don't want to have the influence of social media in their life. They also don't want to spend a bunch of time on their phone. And I'm like, oh, well, this is great. Like, maybe that will be truth for my kids, and they're just going to be playing sports and hanging out in real time and riding bikes, and not necessarily connecting with friends while they're stuck inside and through a phone. Because I think that's like the big issue right now, is how many people are connecting just through social media and not through face to
in
face.
person.
Yeah.
I think it definitely, social media makes it easy to not maintain active relationships, but to have relationships that just exist on social media. And like, or you, like, your friends will post and you think like, oh, like, I'm in touch with my friend. It's because I liked the post. And it's like, well, that's not really like much of a connection. In terms of
Like you gave him a little tap.
yeah, I gave him a little tap. Hey, I see you. I see you. And like, it's something, but it's not, it's something that I've
Truth, you'd rather this person
felt
just
aware
call
of.
you instead of just
Yes,
liking your
yeah,
post
yeah.
or watching your
And
life
I
from a
think
distance.
I grew up like with Facebook, kind of blew up when I was in middle school. And so I like don't know of a life socializing without social media, but it's also not quite as dominant for me as it is for Gen Z. I don't personally really use Instagram or Facebook or any of the big platforms right now. And I think has honestly socially isolated me at times, not using those platforms. So I want to use it's kind of like a difficult battle of like connecting with people and like building friendships, but also like I don't really like what the algorithms are feeding me right now. And so I think a lot about social media all the time and like what it could look like, or how I should use it in my life. And haven't really come to an answer or conclusion on it. I'll say that the platforms that I use the most are, my number one is Reddit. And that's probably my favorite social media platform, which is unusual, I'd say, for my demographic. But it's also increasing in popularity. And I really like it because I can customize my feed easily, in terms of I can follow certain groups and then I basically just have a feed with the things that I like in it. And I also like reading a lot, and it's very like text heavy form. I really like a good comment section with like a lot of helpful information. I love to like acquire knowledge. Um, and I find that other platforms, like when I look at the comments on Instagram, I'll see a funny video, but the comments are just like so negative, and it really like affects my energy in a way. And so I find that there's a lot of creativity on all of the platforms, and like beyond Reddit, I'm not really platform specific, I'd say. Um, but I've lost the desire. I don't really post my own life that much. I feel like my friends don't really either. And like social media no longer feels social, but more just either something that you have to do as part of a job, or like something that you use to disassociate from like how bad the world is right now. And like it
It
just
looks
doesn't
like you
feel,
should know how bad the world is right
or
now.
learn how bad the world is and then
You know,
disassociate
and
while
talk
learning about
about
how
it.
bad the world is, which is my MO.
It is so true that it is something that a lot of people have to do for their job. And it's kind of like HR and just policy hasn't caught up with that, because you shouldn't work in a place where you have to use your own personal property to advertise for a company. That should
Mhm.
be
Yeah,
very, very regulated. But
I
it's not.
agree.
But there is like a, not just, you made me think about what you said with the lack of socializing on social media, and there's also just such a um like robotic interaction with social media. um like on TikTok, everybody does this, and they point, and they,
Oh,
they have
Yeah.
like
yeah,
very
right.
specific voice, and it's like this morphing into this person that is the trend, in order for them to get more likes or whatever. It's almost like,
Or even to just fit in on like a deeper psychological level. Like I
yeah,
find myself when I watch TikToks, sometimes because I imitate other people's behavior, I suddenly am like doing the TikTok stuff, and I'm like,
yeah,
what is this? I don't want this. Is me. I didn't naturally absorb, or I don't know. Like this is not. This is like a new behavior that I've acquired from just watching videos, and it's
Smile.
kind of strange.
It's
But I
yeah.
feel
taking
like
over.
other people do have
I
help.
find
Like,
myself like,
yeah.
first it's kind of, how do we get to a place where we aren't also, and this is just like talking points that I keep on hearing on podcasts right now that's really kind of resonating with me, but how do we get to a place where we're not also dependent on checking our phones? Because that's,
Mhm.
it's terrible. Like the first thing I do when I wake up is I check my phone, I check my email, I check the news, I check, all my social medias, and I do use social media for work. So there's a lot of like DMing that I need to make sure that, I'm staying up to speed. I mean, honestly, my DMs on my Instagram are as significant as checking my email, because I am reaching out to people for my job
Mhm.
through DMing people. And it's not just like taking a break from technology and our phone, but it's like, how do we take a break from social media, and how do we just reconnect? And I'm going to bring up Amy Poehler's podcast again, because um, she has such a highlight on friendships. And the other day I was listening to one of the interviews, and I was like, oh my gosh, I should just pick 3 friends that I haven't reached out to in a while and just shoot them a text, instead of just like scrolling and seeing what they're up to through social media.
Mhm.
And I did that on Monday, and it felt so good. Like it just, one friend wrote back and she's like, Konnichiwa. She's in Japan right now. And another friend was like, oh, hey, I'm over in Bermuda. And I was like, I've got some really dope friends. Like, they're not
Mhm.
even in the States right now. And it just feels so good to like shoot them texts and say, hey, life is busy. It comes at us fast, but I miss you. And what's going on? And let's, try and get on the phone with each other, or, come stay in our spare bedroom in Vegas, whatever the conversation is. But that, I think it is like something that's very present in my life right now, is like trying to figure out how to reconnect in this busy life of parenthood with young kids, but also this busy life of like,
Yeah.
so much of what we do is interacting through text or social media.
I was just gonna say, Facebook was kind of came to be when I was in high school, and so I feel like everybody was obsessed with Facebook. So I definitely loved Facebook, and kind of posted, yeah, your like everyday life stuff. And so
Yeah.
now I feel like my relationship to Facebook is a lot different now, and I don't really post very much, but I do still really like Instagram, and I feel like Instagram has been really helpful for artists and small businesses. I feel like
Mhm.
it's something that I think does impact people negatively sometimes, in that respect, because it feels like it's so much to keep up with. And as somebody like who's trying to promote like their art or their small business, I think it can be so hard to focus on well, now I only got so many likes and only so many people are seeing this content. And now I have to make reels and put all this like time and effort, when a lot of times there isn't necessarily like a direct, like, oh, make this content and get money. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that it can be really disheartening. And I personally have had to kind of take a break from it in that way. And I think as an artist, I really like it as a way to
Comfortable.
show what I'm working on. But I think that I mostly appreciate the community and kind of like the discourse that I'll have kind of back and forth with other artists in Kansas City. And I think that I have to focus less on, how many likes is this getting? I'm not focusing so much on like trying to craft like the perfect thing. Because I'd rather try to craft the perfect, but I'd rather focus on my art than like the perfect piece of content for it. So I think that that's just how my relationship with the Instagram has changed, but I do really like it still, since it's a visual platform, but it feels like it's gone through different iterations. And I think a lot of people feel like it's not necessarily what it used to be. But I do think a lot of people
None of them
still
are.
use it to find creative people and small businesses to support. But I feel like this may seem kind of old school, but I still really love Pinterest, and I use Pinterest a lot. And that honestly will make me happier than just scrolling Instagram, because it's such a visual inspiration and I have my little boards. And so I feel like I've done that for, over 10 years, and it really helps me, and I feel like can be a little bit more positive than like going down like an Instagram rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I have been hearing that it's helpful for artists too to kind of get their content out. So that's cool.
On Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Pinterest initially as being kind of about that, putting your stuff on it. I mean, of course, it was sort of a scrapbook as well,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook initially was just social. Instagram was really social. And now none of them feel very social to me at all. It's
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one
Facebook.
mentioned MySpace.
I
That was the
know.
beginning of social
Yeah.
media, was MySpace.
Loved a MySpace. Yeah.
And you had your top 8 friends,
And your
and whoever you put on
songs and
play was such a big deal. I
Mhm.
think I think I can still log in. I hope so. I have friends or pictures of friends that have since passed away that I only have on MySpace. So
I would have
it'll
no
be a good
idea
trip.
how to get into MySpace anymore, but that was my first.
I'm going to try and log in tonight.
I forgot about MySpace because I never did MySpace. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that probably feels a little young for you. Then Facebook was shortly
yeah,
after, and that's kind of when all the
yeah.
adults, because we were adults, but we were like very young adults. We were early 20s when Facebook came
Yeah.
out. Casey and I, anyway. Um, so
I'm so
Yeah.
glad I didn't have social media when I was young.
yeah,
Like
Me too.
I'm so glad that there's parts of my life that I probably would have shared that I didn't.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
you did post your life all over your bedroom wall.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good thing you didn't
I
have
know.
social media to post all of
Yeah.
your, because we saw, yes. I'm like, that's not fair.
Oh, here we go. Had to come up. Casey was the bad one. Casey did
No,
all the bad things. She never got in trouble.
that's what I was just going to say. Casey didn't get in trouble. I didn't say she was the bad one. I was saying you didn't get in trouble, but I did. And yeah, and your evidence was all over the walls.
You know, I
I'm
live
glad.
life very freely and open. It's just part of my
That's
personality.
that
And
Rolling Stone vibe. You know, we got the Rolling
I've
Stone
got that
vibe.
little Rolling Stone vibe, you know? It's just part of who I am.
Rock and
Um,
roll.
but you know,
Um,
now that I'm a mom, I'm just like so centered and peaceful and calm and no more rock and roll and you know.
I'm just glad I didn't have it at all until I was an adult. I'm just glad. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know how to even imagine what it would have been like
Just like the Amelia and everyone younger than Amelia has no idea what it's like without it.
to not have it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
you brought this
Yeah.
up as like a generational episode,
Hmm.
I think it's Stephanie and I, and maybe a little bit of Laura, but you won't have quite the same amount of, and Mom, obviously you've been through all of these eras too, but for Gen Xers, it's we grew up not having the internet. Like we remember what it was like to have the internet kind of come into life, but we were of an age where like it just kind of like filtered in. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, we can play games, we can do all these different things. And then, you know,
But it was a
cell
shared
phones.
computer too. So
First cell phones. Like I had a pager in high
yeah.
school so my friends could get in touch with me. Like, you know, there's tons of us that can share that same sentiment of like thinking we're so cool because we had a pager clipped into our pocket and you know like oh my god I gotta find a payphone because so and so just sent me a payphone code or whatever. Like then it was the cell phone and then the smartphone and then social media, but also like the it feels like the 90s were such a safe place. Does anyone else
Mhm.
feel that? No?
I
Okay.
agree. I feel like the 90s were safe. I feel like the
Hmm.
90s were like this, like,
Yeah, it
Safe
was
in
like
general.
it
an
was a good time.
era of just like a lot of growth and like the dot com, like I don't know, everything just felt big and robust and just kind of
It
safe
was
in a
like
way.
post Cold War, pre
9/11.
9/11. And so, like,
Yeah, and
there's
then
just
nine
sort of
eleven
like
happened
no war bliss.
Yeah.
and
9/11 took everything.
yeah, then everything just kind of got set on this trajectory to change. And then even with the pandemic, you know, it's like I found out I think my big takeaway from that era is how much I never thought I would go through a grocery store and see empty shelves. Like my grocery
Hmm.
stores in LA, but I know it was everyone everywhere. And
That
just
was
that like
everywhere.
pure panic of getting food. And it just like really drilled in the vulnerability of it all. But our generation, I saw this article and it was it's something about like the reason why Gen Xers are so nostalgic is because like they want to go back to their safe space of the 90s. I think back on the 90s so fondly. Like I love that episode, the first episode of Portlandia, where they're like, hey, do you know that there's this place that feels like the 90s? It's called Portland. And
Yeah.
it's really kind of like, it's the best
Loved it.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. But it just kind of stuck with me. And I find myself thinking back on that time a lot. Maybe it's because I was coming of age and I had to leave like the safety net, you know, the hard launch into adulthood once you like get to that point where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm an adult now. Like this is like I have hardships and I have responsibilities and I have all of these mounting pressures and I have to, you know, sort out my career and I have to sort out all of these different things. And maybe it's my specific age and of where I was because when 9/11 happened, I was barely an adult, you know, I wasn't even 21 yet. I was like, or I had just turned 21, I think. So
Mhm.
This is part one. So I won't have the final question because I think it'll take too long. Part two will be about how we deal with stress. This part is how we see ourselves. And next will be how we see the world around us. So just remember to move daily, feed your body, and breathe.